Well, hello everybody, because some of you might be watching this on our YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking about incorporating sustainability into your classroom. I'm Kathy Rigling, the Education Coordinator for the Orange Audubon Society, and this program is designed to help educators and other interested people teach children about sustainability. So thank you for joining us. And a certificate of participation is available. I'll give you my email at the end of the program. You can email me. If you're watching this on YouTube, you just need to write me a short little paragraph about what you learned. So Orange Audubon Society, our mission is to promote public understanding of and interest in wildlife and the environment that supports it. So what do you think of when you hear the word sustainability? Do you think about being green or recycling, or conservation, protecting endangered species, environmental education, organic food? And it's all of those things and more. Okay, let me get this working right. Or do you think about the quality of life for your family and families in the future, like clean air and water and affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, natural spaces, good schools, affordable energy? So one definition of sustainability from the Brundtland Report in 1987 is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that's pretty short and sweet. So these are the three pillars of sustainability. We have the environment, society, and the economy. And sustainability is the junction of all three of those. So sustainability means protecting and developing our environmental resources, our social resources, and our economic resources. It's taking a long-term view, planning ahead to create conditions conducive to happy, healthy, safe lives, and making trade-offs to ensure the best possible quality of life now and in the future. Because there's no perfect solution, but looking at different trade-offs. So let's think about energy. So you want to talk about energy to your students. So looking at the environment, what energy source is the most damaging to the Earth's health? And that's a way of looking at trade-offs and things like that. Economy, which energy source do we use right now? Which makes it easier to continue to use it? Which ones are cheaper in the long run? Which ones require investment, some new technology or infrastructure? And look at society, the pillar of society with energy. Which energy sources create jobs for people? Which ones are the healthiest for people? Which sources are safe for the people who work to produce the energy? So it's very deep. You have to look at all the different prongs of these different topics. Now, on a practical side, in your classroom, it depends on what level you're at, but this is looking more at an elementary classroom. In science, you can learn about where does energy come from? How is it generated? How does it work? And that's a really good topic to have your students explore. In social studies, they can look at how you use energy in the classroom and how can you reduce your energy consumption. That's a big one that your students can actively participate in. They can have ownership over that. With math, how much does energy cost? And how much could we save with solutions or changes to our behavior? Like if, we open windows more and use less conditioned air, how can that save money? And language arts, you could do writing about how can you persuade people to reduce their energy consumption, because that's something we can all control. You could conduct an energy audit in your classroom. I know if you're part of the Green Schools program or the Everglades Champions, that's something you can do as part of the program. And it's something you can teach your students to do, and you could do that, weekly or monthly, and your students can see how they're doing in using or wasting energy. So this is an example of energy unit for elementary. of different things you could do, from science, looking at thermodynamics, music, writing songs about using energy responsibly, doing energy audits, mapping where the outlets are, and maybe even where energy is wasted for like geography, social science there. Language arts, they could write stories about, energy use in the future. Science, they could look at where could you install solar panels. The after school club can look at energy use at your school and maybe come up with ways to help with that. So here's another example. So think about salsa or any food that maybe might be more popular with elementary students. So looking at the pillars, you can think about, well, where was this food grown? It has a lot of different ingredients, so they probably come from many different places. And how far away from those places to where you're at? What's the cost of getting the food there? And did growing the food cause problems like pollution or erosion on the land? Shipping, what's the carbon footprint? Economy, how much does that salsa cost? And society, the people that grew the parts of the food, are they working in a healthy and safe environment? Is this a healthy food for you to eat? And then you can think about the jar. How did the jar get produced and how did it get there? It gets pretty complicated. So other ideas. I know you've heard of the 4 R's, but have you heard about the 5 R's? Of course, we have refuse. So that's refuse to use that plastic bag, or like me, when I go to a restaurant, I say, I don't want a straw. I really don't. So you can stop the waste right there by refusing. You can teach your students about that. Well, what are some things we can refuse to use that you won't really miss? You can reduce your use of certain things, like water. You can reuse things like reusable water bottles. You can recycle the appropriate things and teach your students that, if you put the wrong thing in the recycle bin, that is not a good thing. And rot. Teach them about composting. There's lots of things, food, that we can allow to compost and make it be something very useful in your garden. Make recycling part of your classroom culture. It's just something you do. Say, okay, you have wasted paper, let's put it in the recycle bin, those kinds of things. Create a compost pile with permission of your administration, of course, and they can not only learn about reducing food waste, but they're going to learn about natural systems and decomposition and all that good stuff. And you might even, I know there's some places where there's worm farms, and you might even get a guest speaker to come and talk about, worms and how they can help break down this food waste, and then they produce really, really good fertilizer. Right. Raise awareness about food waste. Some schools actively, talk to their students about that, and they remind them, only take what you're going to eat kind of stuff. And think about alternative ways to pack lunch to where you're not using a lot of plastics. And there's a lot of options now, with, reusable containers, reusable baggie kind of things. They even make products made out of plants that recycle. So lots of good choices there. Use environmentally friendly classroom supplies when possible. Some of them are a little pricey, but hopefully they'll go down. But there's refillable whiteboard markers. There's plastic-free notebooks. Never realized that when I was teaching. There's plastic-free pencils. So that's good choices. Teach and practice water conservation. So here we have the 5 R's of water conservation. Water wastage, reduce water wastage, reuse used water, recharge to groundwater. So you want to have places on your campus where water can go back in the ground. So that's where, you have natural spaces or garden areas. Recycle wastewater where it's appropriate. and respect water. Respect water is, very simple. We don't, pollute water. If you have a water feature near your campus, we don't dump stuff in there. We don't let our litter go in there. And, when they have water bottles, we don't pour the water out on the ground. The water is still good. Learn about the water cycle and how that relates to all of this. Encourage, when appropriate, donations of things you can upcycle in your classroom, like, certain toys that maybe families are going to give away, like that train table, or even, if you want to make bird feeders out of, liter bottles, and hear how they used a wooden spoon as a perch. Really cool stuff. Here's something you might not have considered. If you do community science projects, which are now called participatory science, you're helping contribute to the scientific community, which gives us a more sustainable future by knowing what we have. So one of those things is bird counts, which are pretty easy to do. And if you're local, I'll give you information how your local Audubon Society can help you do one of those community science projects, which are very engaging to your students, and it'll get them paying attention to the natural world around them. It just gets them more focused on it. Plant native plants and trees in your schoolyard. You're going to learn about urban ecology. There is a whole website called Homegrown National Park where, because our landscape is so broken up with, developments and things like that, if we add in some natural places where the wildlife can come to get what they need, the food, water, shelter, and space, then we're creating little micro habitats where things like this butterfly, they can go from this little yard to your schoolyard to another yard, and they can find what they need and survive. And we will have a March webinar on improving habitat. So if you're wanting to get a head start on this, if you go to National Audubon Society website and you go to the tab for plants for birds, you can find out what plants for your actual school campus that you can plant that will help provide habitat. Even if it's just a small little area, it will help. So our next webinar is going to be February 5th, and this will be about participatory science. It's how your school can participate very simply. 15 minutes is all you have to do, or you can do longer, in the Great Backyard Bird Count. So it's a project that's been going on for quite a while, and it's a lot of fun, and it's simple. And if you come to the webinar, you'll learn how you can do it, even if you don't have binoculars to use. And last but not least, if you would like a certificate of participation, or if you have questions, if you are in Orange County, Florida, and you want to have a school visit, can come out and help with the bird count and other lessons, just email me at educationorangeaudubonfl.org, and I can get that arranged for you. I've done lots of bird counts on school campuses, and the students really, really enjoy them. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording if I figure out how. Okay, let me see. Escape, stop share, and stop the recording.